now that Cooper is back, CeeDee Lamb returning from a concussion, Ezekiel Elliott, and there was some reporting after the Thanksgiving game that Elliott may get some time off to heal his knee. Well, he fully participated in practice all week long. He's not listed as questionable or doubtful or out. He's got no injury designation. He is good to go. Jerry Jones said that he expects Zeke to have a serious load against the New Orleans Saints. So I think they want to try to get that balance going again. They want to have that good mixture of run pass that really makes it easier to do either because the defense is constantly on its heels.
Yeah, no doubt. You're right. That's what they want. That's what they were when they were rolling, right? Early in the year when they were just ripping off wins week after week. They had that great balance that you're talking about. But I think they've lost their way in the run game a little bit. They've had the injuries with Tyron Smith. They've had to move a few people around. They got a center and left guard combination that's just really not that great, so they can't dominate over in that area. So I think that hurts them. Ezekiel Elliott doesn't look like he's totally 100%. I don't know how much they're going to be able to rely on the run game, at least tonight, not against the Saints. I mean, the only team I've seen run the ball on the Saints in the last 2 years is the Philadelphia Eagles. Other than that, it's tough sledding. So I don't know if I expect the balance to hit home tonight as far as the run game. I got to see that to believe it a little bit. And, of course, we know the Saints are going to be, pretty pissed off and wanting to play too. Sorry, Basing. What was it? I don't know. Sorry,
you
Liverpool.
were far more fascinated with that tweet than I was, where a guy's asking. I get emails all the time asking us about different cities that we can apologize to when we say piss or ass or worse.
Well, I was going to give him some love either way
in the week.
Yeah, but
I can't remember the name of the city.
I know.
But let me just
take
a time out because I get this question all the time. Why do we do it? Here's why we do it. Because we love the folks at Sky. They broadcast our program so folks in the UK and Ireland can enjoy it. But there's somebody there that gets a little trigger happy with the bleep button, and they bleep things they shouldn't bleep. So we are being sarcastic because we know that the folks in the various cities aren't going to have their sensibilities offended by us saying words like piss, ass, damn, and hell.
Right.
Anyway.
There we go.
Anyway.
So
And all four of those probably got bleeped. Let me know, Florio at ProFootballTalk.com, if you're watching the show on Sky, how many of those got bleeped when I said piss, damn,
yeah, we know what you mean.
When I said piss, ass, damn, and hell.
Yeah.
They know who we mean.
Yeah, we know who you mean. But, I think with Dallas, they have lost their way to the run game. And like I said, I just don't know if you're going to find it tonight. I don't. Now, I will say Tony Pollard, he's a notch up from Ezekiel Elliott, in my opinion, right now. That's the first thing I would say. Like I said, Ezekiel Elliott does not look like he's totally 100%. And Tony Pollard looks like he's got an extra rocket up his butt compared to Ezekiel Elliott when he gets the ball and sees a crack in the seam and got a hole. So, that's one thing I'm going to continue to watch tonight when they do run the football, just how they kind of share that workload, because I think there is a difference. And I think, of course, Dallas isn't going to admit that because they're paying Ezekiel Elliott so much money. But, the positive for Dallas and their offense, again, is the weapons at least being somewhat back here. Michael Gallup popped last week. They're tough to match up with. And I know we don't know if Amari Cooper's playing tonight, but this is where when the weapons on the outside get at full strength, this is where, the ripple effect is that maybe the run game starts to get going again, even though there is some issues like I just kind of explained. Because as a defense, it's just hard when they have Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb on the field. You can't just sit there and think you're going to play man-to-man against that group all game. I mean, if you are, you better have, the best secondary in football. And I respect the Saints and especially Marshawn Lattimore, but I don't know if they got the 2-3 corner that can really match up consistently all game with Gallup and Amari Cooper too. And that's what puts defenses in binds and then therefore will help the run game because you got to have safeties back and protect that, big play from Dak Prescott and company.
And I'm glad you mentioned that we don't know whether or not Cooper's going to play. Even though he's been activated, He is questionable. He had some symptoms as a result of his stint with COVID. Not everybody is asymptomatic. Not everybody is perfectly fine. Some guys have missed games even after they've been cleared to return, so we have to wait and see whether Cooper plays. And here's an interesting point about Pollard. And this is an example of how much more of an impact he's had this year. This is his third season. Last year, in 16 total appearances, he played in every game and he started 2 for Ezekiel Elliott. He had 101 carries for 435 yards last year. So far this year in 11 games, he already has 100 carries for 531.
There you go.
So he's got one fewer carry, nearly 100 more yards. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry. Last year it was 4.3. And also, in the pass game, last year he had 28 catches for 193. This year he's already got 29 for 256. So
yeah, you see his role.
He's better this year. He's getting more of a role, and he's doing more with it. And look, that Zeke contract, their hands were tied this year. Their hands are tied next year. But next year's it. Next year's it. And next year's the contract year for Tony Pollard. It's going to be an interesting decision to see how they bake into the overall offensive approach, how much Zeke and how much Tony Pollard is going to have next year, assuming Zeke's even there, because I guess in theory they could try to trade him, but who's going to take on that money? It's going to be one of those situations where the Cowboys have to pay a big chunk of the salary in order to move him, because nobody's going to take on whatever the obligation is, somewhere between 10 and 15 million next year for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I mean, exactly right. I mean, and you know, Zeke is still a good football player, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but hey, we know this story at this point of his career. You know, we've talked about it a lot. He's a car crash runner. Yeah, there's moments again where I know you've heard me say this a little bit last year. There's plays where I look at it and go, that was a good hole. That was a good 8-yard gain. But I look at it and go, I think Tony Pollard would have got 15 if he was in there. That's just how I feel when I see him. I think Tony Pollard is capable of making a little more out of less than Ezekiel Elliott at this point of his career. Now, hey, it's 2nd and 2. It's 3rd and 3. I'll take Ezekiel Elliott, sure, because he is great at, bam, I get hit at the line of scrimmage and I get 2 or 3 extra yards and we still get the first down. But the aspect of the game that, you know, is a little concerning to me is, yeah, there's a giant hole. There's one guy in the hole. It's just a safety, and usually Zeke's going to go down. He's going to go down. You know, he might hit that guy and run him over and, you know, get an extra 2 or 3 yards and then fall down. But Tony Pollard can make the guy absolutely miss and then end up ripping off a run, you know, for 20, 30 yards. And last week, he had a few of those runs, but they got called back. And they got called back for holding on a few of them where I want to go that hold had nothing to do with the success of the run. But, you know, you can see even on these clips a little bit, there's an extra gear that he has. And, yes, he's a little smaller than Zeke, but he's no wimp either. He can smash it up in there too. I really like his game, and if I was them, I would ride him a little bit more. I really would.
Next year, Zeke is due to make $12.4 million. Tony Pollard currently on the books for $965,000. That's how it works, and that's why there is a risk, a calculated risk in giving huge money to a running back. We talked about it earlier this week with Christian McCaffrey, and it's relevant with Ezekiel Elliott because this is another one where you don't blame the second contract. You blame the decision to make the guy a top 10 draft pick. The Cowboys were desperate to get themselves a high-end running back, and they went with a top 10 pick after they had a really bad season, and they earned that high pick. They went with that selection on Ezekiel Elliott. And so when he plays well and he's got you by the kahunas, as you would say, even though that's not the right word, what are you going to do? And that's exactly what happened.
Right.
And his agent negotiated a contract that has these rolling guarantees where he's already got, even before this year began, next year's salary was already guaranteed, and your hands are tied. Your hands are tied. So that's the look. Here's what the Cowboys probably wish that they had done, and I won't be surprised, Chris, if they don't have this approach going forward.
Yeah.
We're always going to have 2 guys. Yeah. We're not going to put all the eggs in one basket, because with one guy, you put yourself into a situation where you eventually got to pay him. Everybody loves him. Everybody's got his jersey. He's a star. He's one of these guys that all the fantasy football people love because he's getting all the touches. Goal line, red zone, touchdowns, 25-plus rushing attempts a game. Dilute that, because then you never have to put any of the guys in this column we have of the top 10 running backs in the NFL, because you got multiple guys at any given time who can get it done.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was the same conversation we had a little bit yesterday. Like, right? I mean, it's like with the Patriots, we see that they don't let that happen. There's some other teams that, of course, don't let that happen either. There's more of a committee approach, so you don't get kind of pushed into that corner to where, like you said, you really got no choice. You kind of got to pay them. So it is. I think that's something to watch out for. And I think your point about, top 10 draft pick or anything in that kind of range there is a really good point too, because it does. If the guy has any success and he's a top 10 pick, you almost have to give him the second contract, because the fan base and so many people within the organization are behind the player then that it gets hard not to reward him. But yes, you can get burned in situations like this. So we'll see. And again, I don't mean to be disrespectful to Zeke Elliott. I'm just talking football and trying to, take a business approach to what I see on the field. I really respect the guy and the player and the way he approaches the game in so many ways. It's just a harsh reality at that position. It really is. But this Cowboys offense, last week, they sputtered a little bit at times. They really did. I don't think Dak has been as good since the injury. He has not hit the form that we saw before the injury, I should say, that a little better. Before the injury, he was on fire. I mean, he couldn't do wrong. I mean, every play, every throw, didn't matter if he was under pressure, bam. Last week, the week before that, we saw the Denver game. We saw, some missed throws. And not that it was bad last week, but there was some missed throws. There was that I think he would probably go, man, I don't miss that. What the heck? They dropped the ball a few times on third downs. Pass protection wasn't great. They got a challenge in front of them this week. The Saints are going to be mad as hell. And we know that defense is still pretty damn good. So I'm excited just to see if he can kind of get back on his game with the full weaponry out there and see what they look like as an offense once again.
And one last point on Zeke, because I agree with you. This isn't an effort to criticize him. This is praise. He and Christian McCaffrey came in, had 3 big seasons, and got their money. And that's what they're supposed to do, because you know that you can't continue to perform at that rate indefinitely. Not when you are, and it's basic Newtonian physics, folks, you are running into a cluster of humanity that is moving at you. You are running into that mass of bodies that is trying to put your butt on the ground.
No doubt.
You're going to be far more likely to get injured or just wear down. I remember Eddie George and he played 9 years before this happened, but you just get to a point where you just can't do it anymore. No specific injury, no chronic ailment, just I've had the crap banged out of me for 9 years at the NFL level. My body just won't do it anymore. Saying, no, I'm done. That's it.
No.
I hope you saved your money, because that's it. So the point is, for the guys who are in this position, get everything you can while you can.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the teams that are making the mistakes, but the guys are doing the smart thing, positioning themselves to get paid.
No doubt. You're right. And listen, we were ones that were banging on the table for him to get paid. We felt like he deserved it. And, it's not my job to evaluate his status or how much longer I think he can, last in the NFL. All I know is the first 3 years of his career, he way outperformed his contract, and he deserved to be compensated for it. And I'm glad he did. I am, because, again, it's a brutal, brutal position, and it's not even fair. It's like, it really isn't. For what a running back has to do, I used to give the ball, to guys like Cadillac Williams and Mike Allstott, and some of the hits, I just would go, oh, my gosh, I don't know how they do it. My neck would have broke 3 times on that one play. And they would, boom, hit somebody again, boom, hit somebody again, and run for 5 more yards. It's a special, special human being, but there's only so much you can take to your point there. So, hey, tonight, I don't know. I don't expect the run game to be hitting on all cylinders. That Saints defense is still damn good. I know they lost 31-6 last week against the Buffalo Bills, but it wasn't because of the defense. That wasn't the reason. I mean, Josh Allen and company had a hard time moving the ball the whole first half. It's the old story we talk about. The Saints offense stunk. So there's only so long the defense can kind of hold the fort down. They were on the field every 4 plays like we talked about. Okay, we made a stop. Oh, we're back in 4 plays later. Okay, we made a stop. and finally just the dam broke, as we talked about a lot. But tonight, I'm excited to see Dallas and see what they can do, especially if Amari Cooper's back out there, because they are a different team when all their weapons at wide receiver are there. It opens the field up, it opens the run game up, and of course it makes Dak Prescott, his life a lot easier too.
And the other thing, too, if Amari Cooper is good enough to play, will he be as good as he was before had the bout with COVID, to the extent that it is causing symptoms that are lingering 2 weeks after we first found out about the positive diagnosis?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.